already the CX-70 plug-in hybrid. This is the new CX-70 Turbo S, and the reason why I'm reviewing this one is particularly mainly for the checkup of the refinements to what Mazda's done. Now, I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you probably watch a bunch of other YouTubers that were just reviewing the CX-70, and they're a lot better than I am at this job. However, they have all said that it has been a bit improvement in terms of refinement to the inline 6 and the 8-speed automatic. This is now the time where I'm able to actually get myself exposed and tell you whether this is actually an improvement or not. Of course, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is a completely different vehicle than the CX-90, because it's not. This is more of a checkup to see if it's been an improvement. So, if you're watching General Cars, this is the 2025 Mazda CX-70 Turbo S. Right, so now we're sitting in the Mazda CX-70. Now, if you've seen my first review of the Mazda CX-90 last year, or the review of the Mazda CX-90 Turbo S, or the review of the Mazda CX-70 plug-in hybrid, this is the same exact interior. So I don't need to go extremely in depth, as I have been exposed to this interior multiple times. However, I'm going to still point out some things with this car. So for the Turbo S, you're going to have a few unique features. Now, it just depends on what options you get, because remember, there's a Turbo S Premium and there's a Turbo S Premium Plus. So there's still multiple packages you can get with the Turbo S. One thing you get the high output inline 6 turbo that produces, 320 horsepower. I have the power outputs right here, and we're going to go talk about the inches in a second. So I just can't remember on top of my head. But it produces a little bit more power than the plug-in hybrid, but the plug-in hybrid and the inline 6 produce the same amount of torque. So that's what I remember on top of my head. I just can't remember the horsepower. I think it's like 340 horses. But anyways, the unique features that you get with the Turbo S, you get an electronic tilt and telescopic steering wheel. That's a Turbo S feature. I mean, it's funny to me because there's a lot of manufacturers now that come with this feature, but for Mazda, this is something very unique. This is the first car that ever come with this feature. So that's one thing. The other thing, of course, the Turbo S does come with standard features. The Premium, I believe, it does come with heated and cooled seats. Don't quote on me on that. However, the rear seats, they have the option of heated and cooled seats. So you could actually get that for the Turbo S model. That no other trim can get that. So, other than that, pretty much you do get some unique colors for the CX-70 comparing to the CX-90. I really like the way the CX-70 looks comparing to the 90. I think it looks a lot better, especially with the color schemes you can get. This is more of the basic black on black interior. There are some nice color contrasts, of course, with the nice little metal plastics around and everything like that. The leather seats, they actually feel really nice and comfortable. I really do like the interior and the seating position in here. It's generally awesome to sit inside this vehicle. Now, with the other things that come around this car, it's the same thing as the 90, literally. I mean, you still have a massive infotainment screen right up front. Of course, you have to operate it using this dial right in the middle. You, of course, have your volume knob right here on the side as well. Your normal, strange 8-speed automatic shifter is going to be right here. And I will tell you, after you operate it for a little bit, it's actually really easy to use. It's just at the beginning, it's a little weird. But you also do come with a 360 camera, which I will say is extremely high resolutions. And when you put it in drive, you do have a forward-facing camera, which is very convenient. And then pretty much after that, that's really what you get with the CX-70. There's, of course, a bunch of features that you get in this thing. A bunch of more standard features. It's not that you're going to come with crazy gimmicks where, like BMW, you're going to have touch-sensitive buttons everywhere and stuff. No, this is actual basic, but really, really nice touches. Even the switch gears in here, they actually feel nice and comfortable. I mistakenly used the wrong window switch. But the materials in here, when it comes to using the buttons, when it comes to using the steering wheel buttons, to even the feel of the shifter, to even the feel of using normal buttons in the inside of the center console area, it's really good. Now, the downsides of the CX-70 is just like the CX-90, and a lot of journalists have complained about this. When it comes to practicality, this is not the big practical advocate here. Obviously, when it comes to looking at the center console area, it's really not that deep of a center console. when it comes to looking around the rest to see if there's any extra storage. I mean, you have decent pockets in the doors, and you do have a wireless charge phone right here and 2 cup holders and a center console, and that's about it. It's really not as practical as the rest of the competition. And Mazda really wasn't pointing this out as a practical vehicle. I mean, it is practical, of course, but not as practical as where you say the Grand Highlander. And another thing too, due to the fact that this is a rear-wheel drive architecture, it does take up a lot of space because the transmission tunnel goes through the center console, and that takes up space. And given the fact that this comes in a plug-in hybrid and it does have mild hybrid systems in here, remember, this is an all-new platform and everything that Mazda is using. This is a very, very tough experiment, and Mazda had tried their best. I had to give them props because they didn't have to do this, but they really, really tried their best to actually do the best they could for an all-new SUV that's gonna become a global platform. So I really like the CX-90. This is a really good take. The CX-70, it is a weird SUV, as it's just a two-row CX-90 in the end of the day. There's nothing special about this car at all that's comparing to the CX-90. Of course, the exterior looks a little bit different from the outside. You, of course, have like little grill marks and everything. Color scheme is different. Of course, you can get a red interior or even a different, unique brown interior, as I've seen. Looks gorgeous. I will tell you that. It's beautiful. And you, of course, you have the third row delete. And that's pretty much it. It's a strange car, but for me personally, I would probably rather get this over the CX-90, as some people don't really generally need the third row, but some people would want a bigger SUV like this. We'll see how this thing goes. But anyways, I'm going to show you the back seats really, really quick, as it's something that we should just talk about.
Talking about the back seats for 30 seconds, you are able to fit a full-grown adult, and that's simply because this is the CX-90. Just without the third row. So you're always going to have the same amenities that you're going to have in the CX-90 in the back seat. And when it comes to fitting a full-grown adult, you are still able to bring the seat forward or bring the seat backwards because it's mechanically identical to the CX-90, and you're also able to recline the seats forward and backwards, so you're able to have more comfort. Now, in regards to trunk space, you're going to have 39 cubic feet of space with the seats up and about 75 cubic feet of space with the seats down. And in regards to powertrains, nothing has changed here at all. There is no increase of power or decrease in power and torque. It's all about the same. For the high output inline 6 for the Turbo S, you're going to have 340 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque, and it's all mated to an 8-speed automatic, so identical to the CX-90.
Right, so we're going to try out the CX-70. And the reason why I want to drive the particular CX-70 with the Turbo S is because the inline 6 was the least refined new thing that Mazda has made. So we're going to just do a small 0 to 30 miles an hour, just give it a go. And let's see if there's any improvements in terms of power. Alright, so now I'm going to drive it normally. So this high output inline 6 has a good grunt to it. I will say the plug-in hybrid, when it has a full battery charge and on top of that it's full of gas, it's quick. But this inline 6, I will say it has some good power to itself where it should relatively be respected. And I really hope Mazda does bring out the full potential of this capability of this inline 6, because I really do think this engine has a good potential. I really hope this does start spreading out into the lineup more and not just stay with a 3-row SUV. I really hope this engine spreads out more. But anyways, talking about the inline 6 and the 8-speed transmission in terms of how much more refined it is comparing to the CX-90. Now, the biggest complaint that a lot of reviewers and customers and relatively anyone that has driven the CX-90, that's in terms of the inline 6 or the plug-in hybrid, it didn't really feel refined. It felt clunky. It had rough shifts. It had rough transitions to, you know, hybrid to engine to battery mode. And the same thing with the inline 6, the 8-speed wasn't really smooth. And obviously, for the first time that Mazda's ever brought anything all new, I mean, remember, this car is entirely brand new. The platform is new, the engine is new, the transmission is new. Everything in this car is so new that there was going to be screw-ups. And the CX-90, though it wasn't a complete screw-up, there was a lot of flaws with it. And I was trying to be nice with it because it was Mazda's first time ever making something like that. And generally speaking, it is a really good driving SUV. But it did have refinement issues. And I will tell you, there's a lot of stuff that has improved with the CX-70 over the 90. For instance, the transmission. The 8-speed automatic that came out in the 90, though it was an amazing idea, it really wasn't that smooth. It did have a lot of clunks whenever you were transitioning to downshift, and whenever you're trying to just take off or whatever. Like, I'm gonna just completely stop after this speed bump and then we're gonna just go. It had a lot of clunk to it, and it wasn't a really nice feeling to it. Now, it's a lot smoother. And obviously, you know, you have to drive the first year model of the CX-90 that has not been updated, and drive a CX-70, and you're gonna see that Mazda has definitely listened. And that's one thing that I could really appreciate about Mazda. This, yes, was an experiment to come out because they needed to see what people really thought of this new idea that Mazda had. And they needed to see what flaws it came out with and what flaws they needed to fix. And I think the CX-70, with this refresh of updates and stuff, is a massive, massive, massive improvement. The 8-speed is so much more smoother. No, it's not like a ZF 8-speed automatic. It's not like a dual clutch transmission. No, it's not going to be like that. This is, remember, a Mazda derived transmission. It's getting smooth like the original Skyactiv 6-speed automatic. And that is a really good thing. Now, in terms of acceleration and everything with this inline six, no, it doesn't feel as fast per se as the hybrid, but it does have a good kick. And once that turbo does kick in, remember, this is a single turbo motor, it has a good kick to it. I will admit to that. And one thing that I really can appreciate about this inline six is it's not bad in gas. A lot of people have been saying this is a really good car in terms of fuel mileage. Surprisingly for a Mazda with the inline six. You could average close to 30 miles a gallon on the highway with this engine, which is a bit of a surprise for how much bigger this car is. And the Skyactiv turbo that's in the Mazda 3, that's in the CX-5, that's not really that good in gas comparing to this. This is actually exceptional for a vehicle this size, which is actually very impressive. And if you go for the plug-in hybrid model, you will get over 30 miles a gallon, which I would say is a pretty decent deal. Now, in terms of the last flaw that I really do have with the the CX-70, is the ride. And this rides the same exact way as the CX-90. And as an enthusiast myself, I don't mind it, but as a normal customer, this could be an issue. This thing is stiff. And for a big 3.0 SUV, you really, really feel it. Remember, this is a driving inspiring SUV, so obviously when it comes to handling and everything of that sort, it's very sharp. As you can tell from the camera, it is really sharp. And I really like the way how this thing genuinely handles. This thing is pretty much a driver's SUV, and I really like that. For this not being an X5M or this being a performance SUV, this is just a Turbo S. This thing handles really good. And I could honestly say I could rock something like this every day and not mind the fact that this is a mom car. So that's one thing that I could say. But for a normal person, if they really want a vehicle that rides super smooth, that is super quiet, this car, though it is very quiet, is definitely not the smoothest. And that is a problem that maybe some could have with this CX-70. It's not the smoothest car in the world, and it's nothing compared to the Honda Pilot, nor the Toyota Grand Highlander, or the Toyota Highlander in general. This thing does have a bit of stiffness to it, but the HP still needs to get a little better. But this just has a lot more character than those vehicles. And this being rear-wheel drive biased, and this having a 6-cylinder, you can't beat it, man. I really, really enjoy driving this thing, and I really like what Mazda did to the CX-90, and the CX-70 is more of a vehicle that's more preference to my style. Again, this is a car that really depends on what style you want more. You know, obviously the 8-speed still has a long way to go in terms of just pure refinement and everything. Remember, the Skyactiv 6-speed that Mazda unveiled back in like 2012, it took a few years before that transmission was good. You know, it wasn't a bad transmission. It's just it wasn't the most responsive, and it wasn't the best that was out there. And then Mazda improved it to the point where it was a good transmission. It was reliable. You know, this 8-speed is going to be the same case. It's going to have some refinement issues at first, but it's going to be improving. And I can definitely tell you, it is so much better than when the CX-90 came out, just initially from the start. But it still has little clunks here and there that you're going to feel. However, in terms of the ride, that's the only thing that I could complain about. And generally speaking, the CX-70, this is honestly just a car that you're just going to have to pick between the CX-70 or the CX-90. If you want 3 rows, go for the CX-90. If you want just 2 rows, you want the red interior, you're going to have to go for the CX-70. And regardless of what vehicle you choose, you're not going to be disappointed if you actually want something that has a bit of character. If you need something that's practical, I would suggest looking something else other than this thing, because this is not the most practical vehicle you're going to find at the competition. I was just going to say it like that. However, if you like the interior, you like the luxurious oriented feeling, you're gonna like the 70. With that said, we're gonna close this video and I will catch you guys on the next one. Take care.
And this marks up the series of the CX-70. Now, I will say it is going to be the same exact thing that you're going to expect from a CX-90 if you're cross-shopping between these two. There's not going to be much of a major difference other than just color schemes, to be really honest with you. So whether you want 3 rows or you want 2 rows, the CX-70 and the CX-90 will not disappoint you as drivers SUVs, and I would highly, of course, recommend to give them a shot and check them out. Until next time.